Hello class, this is Dr. David Gregg. I'm just giving a quick rundown introductory of our course, which is going to be primarily online. Here I am on our home page here. I'm viewing the course as a student just so you can see it from how your own screen should show it for you. One thing you'll notice first and foremost is that our title only seems this year to have the CECP course number on there. This course is also ADA-6400, so this course will be both. Looks like they just made maybe a small error when they put the title of our course up, so this is going to include both. Right here we see we have our home page. I got a little bit of brief information up here. This is an old course introduction video. Sorry, my software is a little wonky this semester, so we're not going to be able to get this nice little picture of me in the corner for this course introduction video. But we do have a picture of me over here, a little bio, a little more information about me, just to get you a little more familiar with who I am. So feel free to read all that when you have a chance. First thing I'm going to do is show you how to find the syllabus on the e-learning site. I am going to email you the syllabus, but let's show you how to also access it just as you're doing the course. The most important tab is going to be content. That's where we're going to find all of our assignments. The only thing that you'll submit or do that isn't in content will be the final exam, which I'll show you how to get to a little later. But first and foremost, when we go to content, we see I have all the modules, weekly modules, are W1 through 12. So these are things you're going to be looking at each week as the semester goes on. But before I show you more details on the content, I want to show you two ways to access the syllabus. The first way to access the syllabus is this overview thing up here. You click overview. Boom, it's going to give you the full syllabus right here. I believe you can download the syllabus from this page right here. A better way right now that you can see a bit more is when we go to the Start Here tab. Now, Start Here is going to be a very important tab for you to access some of the more long-term assignments. I'll show you a little bit more about that in a second. But first and foremost, what we want to see is as you scroll down, there is also a spot here to access the syllabus for this semester. You also see another course introduction video and another instructor introduction video, which just gives you a little more information about me. Below that are some added modules for some of the larger case-based assignments, as well as some information on the final exam. So all of this is going to be contained here under the Start Here course information. So be sure to go to the Start Here tab. Pretty much every time you log on, it'd be good to check on this just to see how you're progressing with some of the larger assignments of the course. Anyway, let's go into the course syllabus here. And what you'll see is basically what you're going to get when I email this to you. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going through all these details. Feel free to go through the syllabus yourself. We see some course objectives, and we see here the required textbooks. So I will show you really quick the pictures for these. I'll go over to Amazon here really quickly. Here's the first textbook, Co-occurring Disorders. This one's going to be very important, especially for the beginning of class, to get all the basics of and fundamentals of how to do assessment. Over here we see the second textbook, an older one, but it includes some very important kind of techniques in therapy and assessment and treatment. So this one we'll be using more later on in the semester. Another textbook or book I highly recommend is some form of the DSM. Either get the DSM-5 itself or get this handy little desk reference. It's a bit cheaper. It's smaller and much easier to just find the symptoms for each mental health disorder, and that's going to be what I focus quite a bit on, is the particular symptoms. I will be asking you very often to list the specific symptoms for whatever mental health or substance use disorder you will be discussing or be reporting or submitting for different assignments. So be sure to get yourself a copy of this. There's also another place where you can find access to mental health symptoms. If I scroll all the way down, I wonder if I have it here. Yeah, so I'll show you that a little bit later. There's another website where you can access that information. So those are the required and recommended textbooks. Down here we see all the different article readings. All of these articles are going to be available in the content section on e-learning. So I'll show you how to get to those in a second as well. Over here we have kind of a brief listing of all the different assignments that you'll find primarily in the content section on e-learning as well. We have weekly reading assignments, which can take the form of drop boxes, which are just papers, discussions, and lecture responses, which are just responses to the weekly lectures that will be posted. I'll talk a little bit more in detail about these as well when I go to content. Over here are the different parts of the larger assignments I had mentioned before. We're going to have a paper and a treatment plan. So these are two different papers as well as a case discussion. One thing that I always get a question for is when you're doing these three assignments, I recommend you use the same imaginary case for each assignment. However, I'm not going to take any points away if you change your case or invent somebody new from one paper to the next. So feel free to review these outlines. Each one of these has some sort of outline to give you more specifics. All of that will be on e-learning as well. I'll show you a little bit more about that in a second or two. We'll also see the final exams here. We have some important information on academic dishonesty. Be very sure not to copy things from the internet or other sources without properly citing them. I'm not going to be very stringent when it comes to APA formatting, when it comes to headings or anything like that, or cover pages. You can feel free to make cover pages and headings the proper way, but really the thing I am most concerned with when it comes to grading, when it comes to APA formatting, is that you do your citations and references adequately, and no more than 1/3 of your paper are direct quotes. I'll show you how to get more information, how to do proper referencing in another video that I have listed here. We see the grading scale here. Moving down, we have the full schedule, so be sure to always be checking on this full schedule here. It's all laid out exactly what assignments are going to be due, what weeks. Everything's going to be due on Saturday evenings. That gives me time to do grading, and it gives you time to reply to other people's discussions on Sundays whenever we have a discussion assignment due. So as you see here, every week we've got typically 2 assignments due. So always just keep in mind, we always have some kind of lecture response due with either a discussion or a Dropbox for each week. So I've tried to kind of spread these out very nicely, especially since we only have one break this semester. Apparently we only have Thanksgiving break. So I had to add an extra week to this that I usually do sometimes, just depending on how the course plays out. Another very important paper to keep in mind is right down here. This final page has some very important notes that may be questions that you may come asking me. So if you ask me these questions, I'm going to know whether or not you saw and read through this whole syllabus, because these are some very important questions that I've just had people ask me over time regarding late penalties for different forms of assignments. Things I always mention when it comes, oh, here it is. I put the link right here for finding the specific symptoms for different DSM-5 disorders. As I mentioned, a lot of stuff on late fees. Be aware when you begin the final exam, so there's stuff about the final exam, and drop boxes here as well. So be sure to be familiar with these important notes down here, and just a couple extra resources for our community as well. Some of these links may be out of date. I apologize. It's not always easy for me to update all of the different resources on here every year if they change links. There's just so many different resources I try to put, but you will find PDFs for all of these papers online. So let's go ahead and go back to the content section. I'll show you a little bit more about just how to navigate from place to place. As I mentioned before, all the information that you're going to need for the bigger case assignments is going to be in the Start Here tab. And you scroll down, you'll see Paper 1, which is going to be due October 24th. We have our instructions. We have an outline here for you to look at. I've even created a video for you to look at that goes through the outline. So be sure to be very familiar with how much work and content is going to be in each one of these bigger assignments, so you can kind of plan these out through the semester. Try not to get them all done just in the last week before these bigger assignments are due, because they can take quite a bit of extra detail. I'm going to just show you one thing here in this outline that I think is important. When you look through this paper outline, this is not the only page. Make sure to scroll down and you'll see the full amount of content that I asked for. Basically, if you get all this content in there and you know there aren't a lot of spelling or format or drafting errors, then you should be doing pretty well on these papers. One thing of most importance I want to point out on this outline here is the assessment and screening tools. When you go through this, be sure to remember you're going to be expected to reference at least one screening tool for both a mental health and substance use disorder for your client. So you're going to see all that detailed information right here. Most often what I see people missing on this first paper one out assessment paper is usually the assessment and screening tool reference. All you have to do is reference at least one each, mental health and substance use disorder, and kind of cite the appropriateness of that tool for diagnosing your client. And you're going to see all the rest of the information. Just make sure to get all this information in your paper and you should be okay. So go back to the Start Here tab up top. You'll see similar information. You'll have an outline for the case discussion, which is going to be a slightly different kind of discussion than the weekly assignments, since it's going to relate specifically to a made-up fictional case. And then we'll have the paper 2, which also has an outline. It's a bit smaller of a paper than the first one. I tried to make sure to include all the information on length as well. Let's see, so if I go to the outline here, it should show you what I'm expecting for length. 4 to 6, 12 point, Times New Roman, double spaced 1-inch margin. So try my best to make sure that you have as accurate of an understanding of the length of these papers that I'd like them to be. Don't worry if they're a half page too short or too long. Anything more than half a page though, try to make sure to edit it and make it as concise or detailed as possible. Alright, so let's go back over to content. I think I've covered most of what we need from the start here. So as you go down from week 1 to the next, you're going to see each week has an overview of the objectives, the readings, and the assignments. For week 1, I'm going to provide kind of briefer readings, this definition of recovery. I also have a PDF here for listing the symptoms of a substance use disorder, which are going to be very useful for when you're talking about your made-up cases for the assignments. Go back over here, we see the lectures. Oh, very important detail, keep this in mind. You see this lecture response 1? You may not be able to submit it until you viewed all 3 lectures. See, it says there's conditions in order to access this assignment. You need to view the 3 parts of the lecture. I put a lot of work into these lectures, so please watch these. You know, they're tough putting myself out there like that to record my every little movement and detail, so make sure to put the time in to watch these videos, because they will be helpful as well for completing the lecture responses. Just want to make sure that we're getting all the content that you need from week to week. We have the Dropbox, so these are the 2 assignments for the first week. The Dropbox with all the information here. You just submit the paper right here. I've got length as well. Same standards for length. Time. Oh wait, actually no, I do this different, right? See, I give you exact word count for these, because the actual paper size is a little more specific for these. I really want these papers to be concise and detailed. Just get the information that is requested here. That's all I'm really asking for. No need to give any more elaboration than what the Dropbox asks for, because you'll find that 300 to 500 words can go by really quickly. Make sure you're using your own words though. Make sure you're using your own ideas, or you are citing things if you're taking them from other places. I will be watching for plagiarism, so be sure not to do that, because it's bad. It can get you in trouble. We move on. We'll see that each week is kind of similar format. It gives you objectives, readings, assignments. And once again, we've got a discussion here. I have a couple extra lecture parts, so this is a video from YouTube for you to also view for this week. And that's just how it goes week to week. You move on from week 1 to the next. I have 2 spots here where you'll see final exam information. I guess I'll go back to the start here again to show you that. Down here in the bottom, there is the final exam information. We got a pre-test that you can do just to see how well you're learning the information. Then we got a study guide as well that covers most of the details that will be important to study for the exam. Let me show you where the exam will be. You go up to assessments, And then you're going to click Quizzes. This is where we get to access the exam. The exam is going to be available from December 14th to December 17th. So all through exam week you'll be able to take this exam. Remember though that once you start this exam you have 90 or 100 minutes to finish it. Somewhere within there it will warn you once you start to take the exam how much time. So once you start you have to finish it at that same time. So if you're going to have any notes or anything like that to help you through it, be sure you have them available. It is a challenging exam. I've seen quite the range of grades from different people. Generally, if you're doing all the work, getting all the content in, studying the stuff that I have, all this stuff should be fairly familiar. Most of the exam is going to, particularly the parts that get people a little bit that challenge people a bit, tend to be questions related to the readings, because particularly the journal articles and research articles, I'll ask some tricky questions in there about the findings of those research articles that people oftentimes get wrong. Same thing with specifics about different symptoms. I put a lot of questions in there that ask what specific symptoms are included with disorders like bipolar and other disorders of that kind. So be sure to get those kind of details very familiar before you take this exam, because every bit that you already know and have in your head will make it that much easier for you to get through the rest of the exam. Let's see, anything else I want to show you? Oh yes, rubrics. These rubrics can be very helpful as well. So we go over here, we click on rubrics, and this will give you the main points that I'm grading all of these assignments with. So if we go over to case discussion rubric, you should be able to just click it. I don't know if this is going to show up. Oh, well, for some reason it's being a little weird. You know what? I think I forgot to put this into student mode. I apologize if I did that, because I haven't been viewing this as a student. Well, this is the only part where I think it really matters. So let me go ahead and try that again. Sorry, live screening here. Alright, so now we go back to rubrics. Now we're going to view this as a student. So as a student, you should just be able to click this. And I don't know if this page is going to show for you right now, but when you click it, it's going to show you all the different criteria that I grade these papers by. I may or may not also take away or give back points for other things, like if you include any very relevant or useful details or go out of your way to cite additional outside sources. I might also take away points just for things that I can't quite describe through these rubrics, if just something doesn't seem to have the right depth, or if the organization of the paper just seems very difficult to understand. There could be other things I could take points from, but feel free to really kind of base it on these rubrics as a really good place to kind of build your paper from. Alright, I think I've covered just about everything that I wanted to give you just as a general introductory to this course. Sorry about a couple of the bloopers along the way here. I'm only going to do this once because hopefully this thing recorded correctly this time. Feel free to always email me to let me know if you have any particular questions. I'm sure you will, so I will try to always get back to you as quickly as I can. And I hope you all have a good semester, and take care. Goodbye.